Good? All right, so last 40 minutes we're going to go over absolute positioning. The main difference between absolute and fixed positioning is, as we were talking about, fixed is relative to the viewport. Absolute is going to be relative to another HTML element. Okay? So to give you a quick demonstration, and then I'll go into a more like real life, applicable demonstration. Say we wanted this top button right here that we've created, this top link right here that we've created, to just sit right here in the bottom right of our top div, our div with an ID, or our section with an ID at top, our top section here. What we would do is, first of all, we're going to take this link, and we're going to put it up here in that section. All right? So it's now up here in that section. It still has a fixed position, so it's still staying in that same spot for now. But what we're going to do is, first off, what it does is, let me just show you here. So I just changed the position to absolute, yet it didn't move at all. And that's the reason, because what happens is when you position something absolute, it looks for the closest parent element to it that has a position other than static. And since we have nothing on our page, and since we don't have anything in the top section that has a position of static, that does not have a position of static, then it'll just go to the HTML tag, and that's why it stays down here in the bottom right. Okay? Because that nav bar, it has a position of fixed, right? But it's not a parent element of this link right here. So, in other words, like one of its parent elements is this section ID top, and then beyond that, it's the body / the whole HTML document. So that's why it stays down there in the bottom right. So what we have to do, this is the most common practice you see, is you just give what you want it to be relative to. You give that HTML element a position of relative. Now, it does change some things. So what we're going to do is we have to come back in here, and now you see it's up here. You see it's positioned here in the bottom right. So it's within that top section. But you notice our nav bar went away, and that's because this is what I was talking about with the different like picture your site as a piece of paper. And when you start messing with the positions other than static, then they have different layers. It's like adding different layers on top of that piece of paper. So you start putting layers, and this is what we call a z-index. So what we have to do, so we come in here to the header, and we just need to make sure it has a high z-index. So just give it a z-index of really anything. Yeah, all of it still pertains the same. It was just, since we hadn't set a z-index for it, it was staying at 0. So it's just underneath, really. I think I forgot to save that margin top 50 pixels. So even without the z-index, if you have the margin, it stays there. But if you didn't do the margin, then it's behind it. Yeah, exactly. So if something else has a higher z-index, it'll go behind it. So it's good to give fixed elements. You can just give them like a really high z-index score of like 999, so you don't have to worry about it going behind anything. So what we'll do over here, just give that header a z-index score. We'll just give it 999. we changed what? We changed the top section to position relative. And actually, hold on for that. So now you can see that this, now that it's a position of absolute, it looked for a parent element that had position other than static. It found it here in this top section, so that's the one that it positions within. So we still have it, we still have the same attributes where it's bottom 10 pixels and right 10 pixels. So now it's just placing itself 10 pixels from the bottom and 10 pixels from the right within that parent element, okay? So just to give you because this is a little harder to sink in, I'll give you a demonstration. I'm going to refresh this page, and this still has a position of fixed because I never saved it. So what we're going to do now is we're going to mess around with this form right here to style it so it looks like these two are connected. And this is what I was going to do earlier, but I got a little ahead of myself. So what I want to do is give this field set here, I want to give this field set a position of relative, right? And then we'll say, I also want to text align it left. That way I know, remember these input tags are inline elements, so text align left pushes them all the way to the left instead of centering them like I had them, because remember we gave everything in the top section. We did text align center in the top section. So we have them text align to the left, and I want this input type text here to be, we'll say 75%, and it's 75% of its parent element, which is the field set. And then I want this submit here to be 25%. And for right now, it'll go to the next line, but what we're going to do is say absolute. No, we're not. We're going to say position, absolute, okay? And we'll just make sure, right, 0, top, 0. Just like that, okay? Now, what I'm going to go ahead and do is we're going to give this text input, we're going to give them eliminate both of the border radiuses. Eliminate the border radius here. And go ahead and copy this color. Border. 2 pixels, solid. All right, and I'm going to give it one more thing of padding because right now it's not quite even. There's a little, a little glitch there. So boom. Another thing we can change for looks-wise is color. So we have it so that it's styled, relative to the field set. And you can see the field set here. So this submit button is styled relative to the field set because we have it the position absolute, all right? And it's on the far right and top right. So if we wanted, we could switch, we could switch the order. And it could be all the way to the left. And see it pushes all the way to the left. But we want it to be all the way to the right. All right? Let me save that. I know one of the things that gets a lot of, and this is what hung me up for a while when I was first learning about absolute positioning, is that it doesn't really make sense if you think about it, because you're setting the position relative on, like, instead of thinking of it being, you're setting position relative on something that you're then going to set position absolute relative to it, right? So it's kind of like, it doesn't make sense intuitively in your head. I know it's kind of confusing. The main thing that helped me is the reason why the one that it's set to, we set it to relative, is because there's technically 4 types of positioning. There's static, right? There's absolute, there's relative, and there's fixed. Okay? So we can't set, static, when you set something position to absolute, it looks for something that has, it looks for a parent element that has positioning other than static, all right? So we can't set the parent element to static, all right? So that leaves us with the 3 left. We can't set the parent element left to fixed, because then it'll be fixed on the screen, right? You won't be able to scroll. It'll always stay in that position on the screen. It'll always stay on that part of the viewport. You could, let's see what happens if we, you can't set it to absolute, because then it messes with stuff like centering block elements and everything. So it's just easiest to set it to relative, in the sense that it's like kind of like the safe one to use. Because relative, all relative, that type of positioning does is you can then put in like top, left attributes so that it offsets where it's supposed to be. Like if it was supposed to be here and we did top -5 pixels, then it would move it up 5 pixels, kind of like using like margin -5 pixels. But as long as you don't change anything in top and left within that relative element, then it's the safest one to do. So that's why we choose relative, and then you use on the child element absolute, so that it positions it relative to the relative element. Okay? I know it bothered me forever when I first learned it. So at this time we have about 20 minutes left. Try to get that form looking like that, and then we'll be good for today. And we'll have a little group exercise tomorrow in terms of a site we're going to rebuild, working on it together so that we can get a little more practice with absolute positioning and floats and all that good stuff. All right?